Welcome to Hidden Wonders, a channel dedicated to exploring forgotten facts, strange history, and those unbelievable true stories that most people never knew existed. Our goal is to peel back the layers of time and reveal the secrets hidden in plain sight. If you enjoy these journeys into the unknown, please remember to like and subscribe to help support our future stories and join our community of curious minds searching for truth. In this video, we explore the haunting concept of places that were intentionally covered, flooded, or abandoned by those in power. We often think of history as something that fades naturally, but sometimes governments make choices to force a community into the shadows. Today, we dive into the chilling reasons why certain towns were ordered to vanish forever, starting with a place that was systematically hidden from the very sun itself. Chapter 1. The Redacted Grid. In the quiet archives of history, some maps tell a story not by what they show, but by what they hide. Imagine holding a vintage map from decades ago, where a thriving community once stood. As you trace the lines of familiar roads, you suddenly find a specific grid of streets that has been redacted by a heavy government pen, leaving only a dark, empty void behind. This is the haunting reality of intentional erasure, where a town is not simply left to rot or crumble over time, but is actively scrubbed from existence. Most ghost towns are victims of economic decay or natural disasters, slowly being reclaimed by the earth. However, the town of Oakhaven was different. It did not just fade away into the mists of memory, it was systematically and carefully hidden from the world, forever. Why would a bustling community, full of life and laughter, be ordered to vanish so completely? Oakhaven was once a place of progress and promise, yet its name has been whispered only in hushed tones for generations. The redaction on the map is not a mistake, it is a deliberate act of silence. We must ask ourselves what secrets were buried beneath the soil, and why the sun was no longer allowed to shine here. The ink used to strike Oakhaven from the official records is thick and cold, a physical barrier between the past and the present. When we look at these redacted grids, we see more than just missing streets. We see a government decision to erase 1,000 stories at once. Every house, every park, and every corner shop was meant to be forgotten, as if the people who lived there never even existed at all. As we begin our exploration into this void, we find ourselves drawn to the empty spaces on the map. It is in these shadows that the most unbelievable truths often hide. The mystery of Oakhaven pulls at our curiosity, inviting us to wonder what could possibly justify such a radical action. Was it for safety, for progress, or was there something much darker lurking beneath the surface of this quiet, ordinary town? The silence surrounding Oakhaven is heavy and atmospheric, much like the dark cinematic visuals of a forgotten dream. In the soft light of a vintage lantern, the redacted lines seem to pulse with a life of their own. We are not just looking at a map, we are looking at a tomb. A place that was buried on purpose requires a specific kind of bravery to uncover, and a willingness to see the truth clearly. Our journey is just beginning, and the path ahead is filled with surprising reveals and mysterious landscapes. As we move closer to the heart of the redaction, we must prepare to face the reality of what it means to be erased. Oakhaven is a reminder that the world we know is built upon layers of secrets, some of which were never meant to see the light of day. So let us begin our story now. Chapter 2. The Great Entombment. To understand why a thriving town would simply vanish, we must look deep into forgotten government archives from decades ago. These dusty records reveal a truth far more complex than a simple abandonment. They speak of a calculated, massive engineering project that few could have imagined possible. The officials at the time faced a choice that would change the map of the region forever, ending Oakhaven. The records describe a sudden and terrifying geological shift occurring deep beneath the streets. The very ground that supported the homes and businesses of Oakhaven had become a ticking time bomb. Underground caverns were collapsing, creating a landscape that was no longer safe for any human structure. It was a geological nightmare that threatened to swallow everything in its path if something drastic was not done by the authorities immediately for safety. Engineers realized that standard demolition would not be enough to prevent a total catastrophe. If the buildings were simply knocked down, the hollow earth below would still pose a massive risk to the surrounding countryside. A more permanent and heavy solution was required to fill the voids and stabilize the shifting soil. This realization led to the plan that sounds like science fiction, burying an entire town while it stood perfectly still today. Instead of destroying the town, the decision was made to entomb it entirely. By filling every empty space with millions of tons of earth, the government hoped to create a solid foundation that would never shift again. It was an unprecedented move, turning a living community into a massive structural weight to hold the world in place. The logic was simple and cold. The town had to be sacrificed for regional safety and stability. Soon, the quiet streets were filled with the roar of heavy machinery and the arrival of thousands of workers. The scale of the operation was truly staggering to behold. Fleets of trucks arrived day and night, carrying endless loads of soil and rock from distant quarries. There was no time for sentimentality as the first layers of earth began to rise against the walls of the shops and the empty family homes. It was a surreal sight for anyone watching from the perimeter. Workers were seen carefully pouring tons of fine earth directly into open bedroom windows and over garden fences. The very places where families once ate and slept were being systematically filled to the ceiling with dark, heavy soil. This was not a destruction, but a preservation of sorts, as the interiors were packed tight until not a single pocket of air remained. The burial moved slowly but relentlessly through the neighborhoods. Garden swings, wooden porches, and decorative fences were slowly submerged under the rising tide of dirt. Nothing was moved or taken away before the burial began, leaving the town exactly as it was on the final day. This created a literal time capsule of the era, frozen in place by the weight of the massive earth-moving project that surrounded it for eternity. As the layers grew deeper, the town of Oakhaven began to look like a series of strange mounds on the horizon. The rooftops were the last things to disappear beneath the soil, until finally even the tallest chimneys were gone. Above the ground, everything was flat and silent, but below, an entire civilization remained perfectly intact, held in a crushing embrace by the very land that had once been its strong foundation. Millions of tons of soil now pressed down on the strange secrets trapped beneath the surface. Every kitchen table, every forgotten toy, and every unread letter is still there, hidden in the dark. This massive entombment was a success in terms of geological stability, but it left behind a mystery that still haunts the region. The town that was buried on purpose remains a silent, heavy memory deep under the quiet ground today. Chapter 3. Echoes in the Earth. We stand now at the final stage of our journey, right here in the present day. Above the buried town, there is now only a silent, peaceful meadow. It looks like any other field you might find in the countryside, but beneath the grass lies a secret. The wind rustles through the wildflowers, yet the earth below holds a heavy, silent stillness that few ever notice. Walk with me across this hollow ground, where every step you take is actually above a roof, a chimney, or a bedroom. The soil feels solid enough, but imagine the space that remains just a few feet below your boots. It is a strange feeling to know that you are walking on air, or rather, the memory of it. This meadow is not just land, it is a lid on a forgotten box. The buildings are gone from our sight, but they remain perfectly preserved in their dark, earthen tombs. While we walk, unsuspecting travelers often drive past these fields, never realizing that an entire civilization is frozen right beneath their wheels. It is a quiet existence, tucked away from the sun, where time stopped decades ago. Nothing changes there anymore. The world above moves forward while the world below waits in a permanent, dark sleep. Consider the hidden wonders that exist just out of reach, barely shielded by the layers of dirt and rock. We often think of history as something in a museum, behind glass cases and bright lights. But true history is often found in the places we ignore, the spaces that were never meant to be seen again. This buried town is a library of the lost, where every room tells a story without any words. If you could peel back the earth like a heavy blanket, you would find a scene of sudden, frozen domesticity. There are clocks still sitting on mantels, their hands stopped at the exact moment the soil began to pour in. They were never wound again, and they never will be. These mechanical hearts are still, keeping time for a ghost town that no longer has any hours to count or days to measure. Next to the clocks, there are wooden tables, once the center of family life. They are still set for meals that were never finished, or perhaps never started. Some have layers of dust from the final days, while others are remarkably clean, shielded by the very earth that took them away. These tables wait for guests who will never arrive, for laughter that has long since faded into the silence of the underground. Most haunting of all are the letters, left behind in desk drawers or forgotten on bedside stands. They were written with hope, with love, or with the simple news of a Tuesday afternoon. Now, they sit in the total darkness, their ink preserved by the lack of light. They are messages without a reader, voices without a sound. They remain as a testament to the lives that were once lived above this very ground today. This is the reality of the town that was buried on purpose. It was not destroyed by nature, but by the deliberate choice of those who thought the future was more important than the past. We walk over these meadows and feel the sun on our faces, while just a few feet down, the artifacts of human life wait for a history that will never return. They are waiting for us to remember them now. As we leave this quiet meadow, remember that the ground beneath you is rarely as empty as it seems. There are layers to our world, stories upon stories, some told in the light and others hidden in the dark. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths. Until next time, keep looking for the wonders that hide right in front of you, or perhaps just beneath your very feet today. Goodbye.